Happy springtime. It's great to be back. Again, my name is Amanda. I am an actor and artist in Los Angeles. I'm a former Michigander, and I love showing you guys some of my all-time favorite projects throughout the year. And for springtime planting season, we're going with a small flower box. So you can put herbs, you can put whatever you like in there, you can put succulents. It is pretty windy today because springtime in Los Angeles means the Santa Ana winds are coming through, but bear with me. I have my cut list, which I'm going to put up on the screen for you, but go ahead and pause it, write everything down, and then I have what you need and also what are some optional things, just to make the job a little bit easier if you have them, but if not, I will show you ways that you can do it without those. So first things first, get your safety glasses on, get your wood, and let's get started. In addition to it being a very windy day in Los Angeles and the road being busier than normal, I don't know if you can hear it, but there is a marching band or something practicing across the street. So again, I apologize for the noise, but bear with me again. But I will make sure to have everything up on the screen for you so that you don't miss a thing, just in case you can't hear me quite as well as I had hoped. But let's get started. All right, so for the wood that I'm using today, it's actually cedar fence planks. That's really easy, really cheap to get. You might even have a cedar fence that you have extra panels laying around, and that's perfect for this. I use them for a lot of different outdoor projects. You can use a wood like pine, but it's not gonna last quite as long outside. So I'm gonna stick with cedar for mine. You could also do redwood or something else that is very durable and weather resistant naturally. So the 3 boards that I'm going to use, a 1" by 2" board, which I'm going to go ahead and note when I say 1 by 2, 1 by 6, 1 by 8, they're not actually 1" by 2" and they're slightly off. They're a little bit less, but I'm just going to call them that. I will put the actual measurements on the screen, but it's going to require a little bit of math, and that usually would scare me off, but I think we got this. Probably not you guys, maybe just me. But a 1 by 2, and this one is about 6 feet long. You're not gonna need any more than that. You're actually gonna have leftover on these different boards, but we're gonna say 6 feet, give you a little wiggle room. It always helps to have a little extra. Okay, the next one is a 6 foot, you see 6 feet, 1" by 6" cedar board, and you really only need about 20 inches of this, but I did just a couple feet of a 1" by 8" cedar board, so probably 2 feet is enough. Again, that gives you a little bit of wiggle room for that. Now, to make the cuts, I'm going to be using a circular saw, but you can use a hand saw. I use that a lot of times for little projects. But I'm going to use a circular saw. You can use any saw that you have. If you have a miter saw, great. It's not necessary for this, but you can use a jigsaw. You can use anything that you have, as long as you can cut wood. That's the important part. So let me sort this out, get my tools, and I'll show you exactly what you're going to need. We are ready to start cutting our wood. So grab a pencil. I'm using a carpenter pencil, doesn't have to be that. A speed square. If you have one, it is an awesome tool that you can use for cutting, and I mean, it has endless uses. I find it using it for things every day that I never thought I would. So they're inexpensive, and you're gonna use it forever. It's gonna last forever. So I'm gonna go ahead and measure out my board, and I have my cut list. So let's see, for the 1 by 6, it's going to be a 19 1/8. Now, I understand not everybody knows 8ths and 16ths, and I'm learning as well, but I'm gonna go ahead and show you on the tape measure what that means. So let me come over here. So if you look at these lines, you have 1 inch, 1 1/4, 1 1/2. Those are pretty easy to find. And the little lines in between here, so there's 1 1/4 and you see there's a line right there that's a little taller. That's an 1/8. Because if you count them out, there's 8 of them in an inch. So when I say 19, what is it? 19 and 1/8, it's actually going to be right there. And I know that's upside down, and it's okay if you don't get it quite right. We'll just adapt as we go. So let's go ahead and grab our saws. Okay? That was a nice up-close shot. And let's see. First off, actually, let's go ahead and measure. So if we need 19 and an 1/8. All right. So we're gonna need 2 of those. Don't mark the second one yet. We want to allow space for the blade because we're not necessarily sure where the blade is gonna end up for the cut. So you don't want it to be off. Just wait until you get that first cut done, then measure the next one. So if you have a speed square, that's great. You put it on the board like this. It's a perfect right angle, so it'll grip it and you make your line. Now if you don't have that, you can use a ruler, you can use something else that has a straight edge. You can freehand it, I don't recommend that, but any way that you can get a nice straight line. Now, I'm using the circular saw, like I said, but here's a little trick that I wanted to show you. First off, since we're talking about the speed square, this is a really good way to make very straight, very accurate cuts. So go ahead, if you're using this kind of saw or a jigsaw, it also works for that, and I believe it does work with a handsaw if you're very careful. But if you go right at the 0 and go against your line, okay, then you bring the speed square up, and this is what's kind of cool. Bring it right up next to where your saw is. It's gonna look like that. And when you hold it down, that's actually gonna give you a very, very nice straight cut. I just wanna show you, that is a perfectly straight cut. That speed square really came in handy. That's how I make all my cuts with my circular saw that are straight like that. Because if you flip it around, it's perfectly straight into the edge. So now, that's our first cut. We're gonna make a second one, same length. So here's the 2 sides to our planter box. Okay, double check that they are perfectly even. And if you're using a board from a place like Lowe's or Home Depot, they're gonna have these little staples in the side, probably anywhere, but just pull them out. It's not a big deal. You don't have to make another cut or anything, but okay. 2 even boards, perfect. Now, go ahead and check that off your list. Made that cut. And the next one is 6 3/8. So those lines that I told you, count 1, 2, 3, that's where your line is gonna be. So 6 3/8. I'm gonna make those 2 cuts. You're gonna do it twice. And then we will grab the other boards and start making our cuts with those. All right, we're done with the 1x6 board as far as cutting goes. So I'm gonna start with my 1x2 next, and I'll give you that cut list. So this is gonna be the top border of the box. Go ahead and make those cuts, and then we'll move on to the next board. All right, we have the other 2 boards done. Last but certainly not least, the base of our planter, our 1x8 board, should be about 7 1/4 inches wide, not 8, but regardless, we're gonna be doing a 20-inch cut. So go ahead, mark your line, cut it, and then you can put the saw away. We are done with that for now. Well, for the project. And then we'll move on. We're gonna move on to the assembly now, and as I mentioned before, There are things that I'm going to talk about that are optional. You don't have to have them. I use them because I already have them. I use them for a lot of projects. If you think you're going to be making a lot of these, you can maybe invest in those things, but if you don't already have them. But don't feel like you need to get those. They might just make the job a little bit easier, a little bit smoother. So, things you will need: nails that are 1 1/4 inches. They can be a little bit longer, but preferably not shorter. And big thing that I use constantly is wood glue. Gorilla wood glue is my favorite. It holds really, really well, really tight. And so this with nails, and then a hammer. But if you have one, you can use one of these. You do not need one of these. But for the sake of time, I'm going to use this. This is a nail gun. It's a little heavy duty for just a single planter, but again, for time, and I already have it. So those are the main things you're going to need right now. One of the optional things that I'm going to be using, clamps. Now, I'm sure everybody has some sort of clamp in their tool selection, but these are actually special corner clamps. You just squeeze them and you can make a 90-degree angle to hold things together. This is another one. This is pretty heavy duty. It has the same function. Unscrew it, screw it, it makes the 90-degree. Or you can use a bar clamp like this, where when you squeeze it, you can adjust it and you pump it like that to tighten up the boards. So we're gonna get started on building it. I just wanted to go through that with you and let you know these are the things I'm going to be using, but you can adapt however you need to for your project. So our boards are not going to look exactly even when we put it all together. What's gonna happen is the thickness of this board is what's gonna go, you're gonna line these two up to make a corner like that. But then instead of having this here, it's gonna be behind it. And I'll show you lots more views of that, but I just wanted to let you know if it looks like it's slightly off, it is, but it's not going to be in the end. So first things first, grab your glue, grab your clamps if you have them, and we're going to match these two sides up, and it's gonna look like that, okay? It's gonna be on top of this long piece. So, you don't need a lot, little dabs. It's just to help hold things together, but kind of like that. Place it on top and make your corner however you need to. If you need to use your hammer and nails or a nail gun, feel free. I'm gonna clamp it so that it goes a little faster for me to show you, but you can also place it on the ground just so, or on the table, to get your nails in and have it not slip around and stuff. So I'll show you how I use these corner clamps. These were very inexpensive. It's a set of 4, and I use it for any box items that I'm making. But you kind of squeeze it, line it up. And I have found so many uses for these. It's kind of crazy. Sometimes I buy something thinking I'm just going to use it once, but it's a nice little surprise when I get to use it a bunch of times. Alright, so it takes a little bit of maneuvering to get it just the way you want it. Okay. Now, I'm going to set it on the ground, kind of like how I was saying before, to make an angle, make it a little easier for the nails, even if you are using a drill. Alright, you really only need about 3 nails. And that's our first side. That's it. It's going to be super fast from here, because now you know how to do it once, you're just going to keep doing it all the way around. Now, when you go to attach the other side, make sure you overlap it like that. See how that side is like that? This is like that. So do not line both sides up like this. you're gonna be overlapping like that, right? When you're finished with that, clamp it or do it the same way that you did the other piece. Take your last board, that's the 1x6, and line it up. And I'll show you exactly what I mean. I'm gonna go ahead and nail these together, and then I'll show you the final product just so you can get a better visual in case you need that before doing it. So now you could probably hear the music a little bit better because the road noise has died down, but that is a mariachi band across the street, not a marching band. So it's been very nice to listen to while I assemble this. But the walls of the box are done. You can see what I mean by these are offset. Glue is still drying. That's okay. But now we're going to go ahead and put the bottom on the box. This is what it looks like. Pretty even. It's not perfect, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and attach the bottom. All right, we're gonna attach the bottom now. Go ahead and take that 1x8 and line it up, and it should be just right. We're gonna attach it the same way that we did the walls of the planter box. I'm gonna use glue and then nails to put it together, and just run the glue all along the bottom of the box. And anytime you have any drips or anything, just go ahead and wipe that off. They will sand off later, glue spots, but just preliminary, just try to keep it as clean as you can. Baby wipes actually help. Those work really well on wiping off any kind of wood glue or anything, or just wet paper towel. So place it, and I'm not going to use any clamps. I'm just going to use my hands and feel where the most even spot is and start there. And go ahead and make your nails go all the way around the bottom, and I'll show you how to do drainage holes after that. We are so close to being done, and if you want, you can just stop here. You have a nice little planter box. You don't have to add detail. That's up to you. Mine is not perfect, but I don't have anybody coming in and inspecting my flower boxes, so I'm not worried. But if you have live plants that you're going to put in here, you do need drainage holes. If you don't have them, the soil can hold in too much moisture and it can rot the roots of the plants, and they die pretty quickly, so you don't want that. But grab a drill. I'm using a spade bit that's a 1/2 inch, but really you can use a bigger bit if you want and do fewer holes. You can use a smaller bit and do more holes. It's up to you, but I'm gonna drill a couple in the bottom. Now, again, you have yourself a nice little flower box. You don't really need to do much more than this, but we're gonna dress it up just a little bit more. Drill your holes. I'm gonna do probably about 4 or 5 on the bottom because it's a pretty big space. Very quickly would like to add, I went ahead and did my drainage holes. As a little add-on, I'm actually going to take some of my scrap wood of the 1x2s and just cut little squares out, 4 of them for the feet. You don't have to do that, but it adds a little extra air at the bottom. You do want to put it on something. If you don't want to cut it, just lay those scrap pieces underneath so that it lifts it up off the ground a little bit. Maybe you're attaching this to a windowsill. Great, you don't need them. But I am going to do that, so when mine looks slightly different in the end, that is why. So just tiny little squares. That's all I'm going to do. Glue and nail the same way that we attached everything else. It is time to attach the little bit of decorative piece on top. It's going to be a little overhang, about like that. So same exact thing that you did before, gluing, nailing, that's it. This part's gonna go really fast, and then we'll talk about planting because we'll be just about done. We're all set. I attached those top pieces. I put the little feet on the bottom just to give it some air. You can use whatever you want to just raise it up a little bit, but we have nice decorative edges. Here is the completed box. And what I'm going to do with mine, you don't have to do this. You can do other things, like you can paint it, you can stain it, you can build it for your kids and have them paint it, or build it with them and have them paint it. But I'm going to sand mine down. All these little rough edges, I just want to make sure that I'm not getting splinters. And then I'm going to do a clear coat of polyurethane. It's a satin finish. It's exterior. Looks like this. You can get different brands, but you can see it says exterior right here. It goes on kind of creamy and then it dries clear. So that protects it from weathering too much, and just seals in that nice rich color too. And then I'm going to line it with a landscape cloth. This is basically just a weed barrier that you can use in your yard, on your lawn, in your flower beds. I like to use it for these boxes. It helps keep everything in that's supposed to be in there and everything out that isn't. But cut it to the size you need, place it in there, put your dirt in there. You can staple it in, but it's really not necessary for a small box like this. And that's it. It's pretty simple. Feel free to go back and look at certain parts of the video, you know, if you missed some measurements or things, but I'll make sure to include the lists and everything that you need at the beginning. And I will show you my finished product at the end once I have done the clear coat and planted in it. But I am very excited that I got to build this with you guys, and I love doing these projects. I love getting to share these with you. So thank you for watching, and I can't wait to do another one with you soon.